Today we'll be talking about typography, typography fonts, function, best practices of typefaces, and the likes. But to start with, what is typography? Typography is actually the use of text in designs. It's generally the use of text in design. So it's used as you all know that text are used to communicate information, is to communicate in a particular design. We can communicate with pictures, images, and all of that, but text is a direct means of communicating information. So now, there are few terms in typography that will touch this particular section of the tutorial. First, I will start with a typeface. A typeface is a set of alphabetical characters, numbers, and other characters that all have the same design. So now what I'm trying to say is, we have fonts like we have um we have fonts like Times New Roman, as the layman normally call it. It's okay, give me font, give me font, give me font, give me font. So basically what we call fonts in our layman languages is actually called typeface. It's a design of letters, a design of characters. So that is what it's called. That is what we call fonts. Then, like the layman call typefaces font. So now, as we know, the font is often used interchangeably with typefaces. However, there's ever so slight difference between them, because font is actually typeface is actually the design of a particular family of text. They have the same design and all of that. Then font is now that family with other features or characters in it. That is, let's say, Times New Roman is actually a typeface. So when we now use or have Times New Roman with different sizes, bold, italic, and all of that, that's when we now call it a font. Okay, change the font does not mean change the typeface. Change the font actually means change the size, the color, the character, as the bold or the regular or the italic of that particular typeface. So typeface and font is the two different in general. So now, particular example which I will do practically is this. Now, if you come here, this particular word typography is a font, and the name of that it's a font, yeah, and the name of this design being used is called typeface. So if we come here, name of this design used here is Times New Roman. As you can see, Times New Roman, that's the name of the typeface. So now, but with this character, the bold and all of that, we're seeing it, this is the font. So that's what it basically means. So the design in general, which is this name, is a typeface Times New Roman. So then that will now take us down to what other terminologies are, which is, so we'll talk about tracking. What is tracking? Tracking is the amount of space between letters in a complete word or sentence. Yeah. So now the spacing is a perfect example of tracking. So now this is a normal tracking space that fits. It enhances readability and legibility in design. It enhances legibility basically in design. So now we can see it can be adjusted, it can be reduced, it can be increased. Tracking is the amount of spaces between. So this is the opposite of it. If we have something as regular as that, we can call this increase and enlarge it. So what I'm trying to do now is I'm tracking this particular text, the spacing between, I'm increasing and enlarging the spacing. So that is the tracking. That is what tracking actually means. The spaces between letters in a complete word or sentence. So now this has a little amount of tracking. This has a little amount of tracking that has been reduced and all of that. So the next to go to is kerning. What is kerning? Kerning describes the act of adjusting the space between character, including those between words, to create A harmonious pairing. So now in this form, I would want us not to mix or confuse kerning with tracking. So tracking is a complete embodiment or the complete way of increasing the spacing between card letters. So now you're doing it in general, in whole, in the whole composition of the particular typeface. So now of the particular font rather. So now kerning is actually the adjustment of these spaces between two letters. Two letters. Okay, this is a perfect example now. There are some fonts that when you use them, when you use them, the spaces between the letters are not always equal. So you need to come and do it manually, select, increase, reduce, and adjust. It happens basically most times when we work with letters like A and V, they are side by side, stuff like that. Letters that have slant sides and they are kerning for their kerning side by side is different from a regular letter that has a vertical character like M, O, T, H, and co. But for letters that have slant side now, they're trying to adjust the kerning so that it will fit perfectly just like what we have in this category. Then the kerning can also be reduced through the tracking option. So it will have to drop like this means just to fit, like when you get the visual balance, you release it. So this is a perfect example of kerning. So you're trying to make the edge of this V to align with the bottom of this A. So that's a perfect example of kerning. So it's actually an adjustment, or it's used to describe spaces between two letters. Between two letters while tracking spaces between all the letters in the whole font. So now let's go to leading. So what is leading? Leading describes the vertical spacing between each line of type. So a perfect example of leading is this. A perfect example of leading is follow the guideline. Yes. So leading is a spacing between the bottom of a particular text to the bottom of the other text. That means each line of each text, that's the spacing between. That is what is called leading. So from this particular line to this particular line, that is one leading. So we can adjust leading by changing the options here. It works for every other Adobe software's products. So this is perfect. So you can adjust the leading, can adjust the tracking, can adjust the kerning, just to suit or to make the text look presentable to the eye. So all of these things need to be attended to whenever we are designing. We don't just sit down and use the default most of the time. Most times the default doesn't really give us what we want or makes the design look legible. So for legibility, if you want the perfect legibility, you can compare a text that looks like this, looks too far apart, text that look too far apart with this particular text. This is more easier to read compared to this. This makes your eyes go far away or travel so long. Or better still, let's use this particular one as an example. We can compare reading this or this or this with each other. So in order to make our text legible, we need to there's reasons for us to adjust distance if we are working with particular typeface that has uninteresting features of all of these characters. So now let's go to baseline. Baseline is actually the line upon which most letters sit and below which descendants, such as the lower loop of a G extend. So I will turn on the grid line to review what baseline means. In the beginning of the tutorial, we talked about setting of baseline. So this is a perfect example of what leading. Yes, leading is every line at the base of a particular group of letters. Every line at the base. So now, how you can know leading is for P now, the bottom of a P is a descender. So that is where a descender starts and go down. And the Q, the same apply to Q. So it goes on, and also G. So leading is the particular line where the letters of a text rest upon. So now and also we will talk about X height. X height is the vertical height of the small letters in the typeface. This is a vertical letter. This is like from this to this is X height of a particular. I will not want to bore so much on all of these properties. So with these few terminologies, I which are the major ones, I believe we can navigate more, and also we also can navigate more to achieve legibility in our particular design or typography works. So aside X height, we also have cap line. Cap line is the opposite of X height. X height is for small letter and cap line is for capital letter. So from here to here is cap line, and from here to here is XI. So like I said, I don't like to bore so much on this. So let's go to the classifications of typefaces.